In Mrs. Stevens' ninth grade general science class, there are 20 students, such as 9 girls and 11 boys. These students have different ethnicity, such as 5 black students, 3 Hispanic students, 1 Native American, 2 of mixed race, 8 white, and 1 Chinese student. Among the 9 girl students, the ethnicity differences are 4 white, 3 black, 1 Hispanic, and 1 Native American. Also, among the 11 boy students, the ethnicity differences are 4 white, 2 black, 2 Hispanic, 2 of mixed race, and 1 Asian student. Miss Stevens is informed that she has to be inclusive, open-minded, and really tolerant concerning students' beliefs. There are about 5 different beliefs in her classroom, such as Protestant, Catholic, Muslim, Mormon, Taoist, unknown, etc. She will be informed about learning a little bit and respecting each student's or group of student ethnicity and culture. For instance, look for a scientist coming from each gender culture which can relate these students to their own cultural pride, identity, etc. In fact, Mrs. Stevens' students' learning will enhance. They will know that they have been accepted. In reality, feeling accepted potentially can catalyze learning. A teacher's mission is to promote learning. Here is how Miss Stevens may introduce acceptance to her multicultural class. There are so many famous personalities and scientists whom students would love to identify themselves with. Among these personalities, some of them are in the following. 1. For 2 mixed race by boy students, a picture of President Obama can be introduced to them by hanging or posting one of his pictures on Mrs. Stevens' classroom wall. He is a mixed race president. Born on August 4, 1961, in Honolulu, Hawaii, President Obama is the 44th and current president of the United States. He was a community organizer, civil rights lawyer, and teacher before pursuing a political career. He was elected to the Illinois State Senate in 1996 and to the U.S. Senate in 2004. He was elected to the U.S. presidency in 2008 and won re-election in 2012 against Republican challenger Mitt Romney. 2. For 3 black girl students, for instance, Mai Carol Jamison can be introduced to them by hanging or posting one of her pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. Maya C. Jamison was born on October 17, 1956, in Decatur, Alabama. On June 4, 1987, she became the first African-American woman to be admitted into the astronaut training program. On September 12, 1992, Jamison finally flew into space with 6 other astronauts aboard the Endeavour on mission STS-47, becoming the first African-American woman in space. In recognition of her accomplishments, Jamison has received several awards and honorary doctorates. 3. four white girls students. For instance, biochemist Florence Barbois Siebert can be introduced to them by hanging or posting one of her pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. Florence Barbois Siebert was alive from 1897 to 1991. She developed the skin test for tuberculosis. She worked as a chemist during World War I and then went to Yale University, where she earned a PhD. During the 1930s, she taught at University of Pennsylvania. 4. For one Hispanic girl student, for instance, Eileen Ochoa can be introduced to the student by hanging or posting one of her pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. Eileen Ochoa received a Master of Science and doctorate degree at Stanford University. She was selected by NASA in 1990 and in 1991 became the world's first Hispanic female astronaut, a mission specialist and flight engineer. Ochoa is a veteran of 4 space flight, logging more than 950 hours in space. She lives in Texas with her family. 5. For one Native American girl student, for instance, Wilma Mankiller can be introduced to the student by hanging or posting one of her pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. Wilma Mankiller, in 1985, became the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. She sought to improve the nation's health care, education system, and government. She decided not to seek re-election in 1995 due to ill health. After leaving office, Mankiller remained an activist for Native American and women's rights until her death on April 6, 2010 in Adair County, Oklahoma. 6. For 2 black boy students, for instance, George Washington Carver can be introduced to them by hanging or posting one of his pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. George Washington Carver was a prominent African-American botanist, chemist, scientist, and inventor. He was born into slavery in Diamond, Missouri, around 1864. The exact year and date of his birth are unknown. Carver went on to become one of the most prominent scientists and inventors of his time, as well as a teacher at the Tuskegee Institute. Carver devised over 100 products using one major crop, the peanut, including dyes, plastics, and gasoline. He died in 1943. 7. For 4 white boy students, for instance, Albert Einstein can be introduced to them by hanging or posting one of his pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. Albert Einstein had a passion for inquiry that eventually led him to develop the special and general theories of relativity. In 1921, he won the Nobel Prize for Physics for his explanation of the photoelectric effect and immigrated to the US in the following decade after being targeted by the Nazis. Einstein is generally considered the most influential physicist of the 20th century, with his work also having a major impact on the development of atomic energy, with a focus on unified field theory during his latest years. Einstein died on April 18, 1955, in Princeton, New Jersey. 8. For two Hispanic boy students, for instance, Mario Molina can be introduced to them by hanging or posting one of his pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. Mario Molina, who was born in Mexico City in 1943. Studied chemistry in Mexico and Germany before coming to the United States to study the effects of man-made compounds on the ozone layer. He won a Nobel Prize in chemistry for his work in 1995. 9. For one Asian boy student, for instance, Chen Ning Yang can be introduced to the student by hanging or posting one of his pictures on Miss Stevens' classroom wall. Chen Ning Yang is a Chinese-American theoretical physicist whose research with Thongdao Li show that parity is violated when elementary particles decay. Until the discovery, it had been assumed by physicists that parity symmetry is as universal a law as the conservation of energy. The two were co-awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics for 1957. Miss Stevens is happy with the advices. She agrees to teach her multicultural classes with more tolerance. Thank you.